Frozen 2 goes into the already known as we, in fact, learn how to build a snowman. That and more on today's episode of The Reel Review. So stay tuned.
Welcome to The Reel Review.
Welcome to The Reel Review, sponsored by Parametric and Lazy Ape Studios, where you get some of the latest happenings, real thoughts, and perspectives in the world of film and television. I'm here with Matt. It is actually pretty chilly out today in Arizona. Hey.
Yes.
Mainly because I forgot to make a nickname.
The high is 58 degrees today, Joel.
It is, I know.
That's cold for us Arizonians.
For us, that's...
Or Phoenicians, I should say.
That's almost blizzardy weather.
Yes.
I mean, almost. If it was raining, like it had been a few days ago, then...
I got my parka, and
Yeah.
I got my sled dogs out, and we are just rolling down the road. But anyways, everybody, I am here with Joel Cunningham.
I like it. And for those that are listening, that is not an alcoholic.
No.
It's a LaCroix.
That's a LaCroix?
Yeah.
What flavor? Orange.
Which one day will become our sponsor.
It's orange bubble water is what it
true.
is.
Orange bubble water. I like to say that the joke that I've always heard about LaCroix is it's like if fruit were to sneeze in some bubbly water. It's kind of the taste that you get from LaCroix.
Ugh.
It sounds gross, but
I don't like that visual.
imagining the visual is kind of gross, but it makes sense. Anyway, welcome to the podcast. Today, Matt and I are going to be talking about a little tiny film that nobody heard anything about called Frozen 2. Yeah, I'm just kidding. It was a big release, actually, for these guys. Probably Frozen 1 is the most successful animated film of all time.
6 years. I don't know.
In the last whatever period of time.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, and so it made a ton of money and was a shocker to a lot of people. They weren't expecting it. So, of course, we had to go see the sequel.
Totally.
But first, before we get into talking about that little film, Matt, why don't you give our listeners some different ways to get connected to the podcast?
Totally. Y'all can get connected with us a number of different ways. Those ways being, one, our website, which is reelreviewmedia.com. And then you can then link to our social medias from there, which is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at reelreviewmedia. And then also you can reach out to our email at reelreviewmedia@gmail.com. Drop us a line. Let us know what's up. And if you have any questions or a specific movie that you got a chance to see that we haven't reviewed yet, and tell us all about it.
That'd be great. Yep.
Definitely.
And Matt and I tend to approach this a bit from our own perspectives. Matt tends to be a bit more of the fan perspective, whereas I tend to be more of the critic perspective. And we put those together to give you kind of two sides of the coin. We dib and dab, jump into the other side a little bit. So with
dabbing
that,
right now, Joel.
Yeah, dabbing.
I'm dabbing right now.
It's perfect. You know, we're talking about a kid's film. We might as well be doing some kid dances a little bit as we're going into this. I'm going to go into the synopsis real quick for this film, and then we can maybe chat a little bit about our individual experiences in seeing this film, because they were very divergent. So Frozen 2, Anna, Elsa, Kristoff, Olaf, and Sven leave Arendelle to travel to an ancient autumn-bound forest of an enchanted land. They set out to find the origin of Elsa's powers in order to save their kingdom. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. Chris Buck and Jennifer Lee as our directors. Some reprising voice actors. Again, Kristen Bell as Anna, Idina Menzel as Elsa, Josh Gad as Olaf, Jonathan Groff as Kristoff. We have a newish ones here. Sterling K. Brown as Matthias, Evan Rachel Wood as Iduna, Alfred Molina as Agnar. There's a bunch, so I'm not going to go through all of them. But what were your thoughts, Matt? Well, maybe more. How was this viewing experience for you?
So let's give you some context here,
yes,
okay? Because I was telling you earlier that I feel like my relationship with this movie and how I felt about it is complicated.
Yes.
So first Frozen came out. I didn't actually see that in theaters. I brought it home on Blu-ray one night. I was like, hey, maybe the kids will like this movie. Let's check it all out together. We watched it. I think the kids thought it was okay. I thought it was okay. My wife thought it was okay. We didn't really love it. And the only reason why I don't normally just buy movies like that without knowing about it, but I brought it home thinking, because everybody that I knew was like, oh my gosh, Frozen, it's the best ever. Everybody's freaking out about it. And I just thought, it's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
That was kind of like my reaction to it.
Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the music is well written pop music, like it's very catchy, a lot of it, especially in the first one. So going into this one, I didn't really have a lot of expectations. I thought the trailers looked a little bit more cinematic and adventureful than the first one did. And I like this one. I'd say overall, I like this one better than the first one. But this is where it gets complicated, because there are things I like better about this one that I didn't like about the first one, and then things that I like better about the first one that I don't care for in this one.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like this weird, there's different aspects of it weighing it down.
Agreed.
And let's start with the positives.
Okay.
And kind of give you a breakdown of what I'm feeling there. I did not care for Olaf in the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
I did not care for him.
No.
This one, he had all the best jokes.
Yeah.
I was laughing hysterically a couple of times, and my kids were laughing hysterically.
Yeah.
Like, it was really good. I was like, wow, this is way better. And I think it's because in the first movie, it's about, oh, I'm dumb, I don't know anything. Like, that's like the Olaf joke. This one's more like, he's kind of figuring things out, but he does know a lot of things.
Uh-huh.
And they have a quick passing line that, like, he's been reading a lot of stuff and he knows facts and
he's
stuff.
trying
like
to make up for non-existing time.
Right, exactly. But he says things and does things that are just, some of them are random and funny, but some of them are just based on like things that he knows and he says, and I'm like, that's kind of funny that you're saying that right now. But I really liked Olaf. He was my favorite part. My unsung hero of the movie is Samantha. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen it, then you'll find out when you see it. But I got a good chuckle out of that moment. Other than that, I thought of the voice acting. There was a moment at the end where I really appreciated, where like Anna. Anyways,
Call her Anna.
Anna.
We'll get away with
So
that.
she has a moment at the end where I'm like, oh, that's actually Kristen Bell's, like, that's how she would be in real life.
Yeah.
I'm like, I totally get that, and I see that. And it's funny. I think they're probably doing that on purpose, actually.
Yeah.
And I like those kind of moments. There's a couple of homages in there that are really funny that you wouldn't get unless you like knew about like 80s pop culture, like music choices and stuff that go along with those types of things. There's a lot of little things and references that you wouldn't really get unless you knew some of that stuff that were very intentional choices. I liked a lot of those moments. Visually, it looked really cool. There's shoot, I can't talk about it without spoiling it. Anyways, so I liked a lot of elements of it, and in fact, I liked a lot more than the elements they outweigh than what they did in the first movie for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, where are you standing with this movie?
Well, I was introduced to Frozen through a song that has become well known from the original. And I would say that probably wasn't the best way for me to originally be introduced to it. Yeah. Immediately thought, well, this is a very kind of simple, childish, lowest common denominator type film. Based upon the song, which I'm just going to say Let It Go. It's not that it was a bad song, but it just had all the most like simple, very straightforward, no nuance really, like one layer of metaphor, the Let It Go, but it was a showstopper, I mean, they made tons of money off of that song. I think they even made like a musical just based upon that song, and the film was everywhere for a super long time. And so finally it was like, I just have to see this because it's, now it actually did become the highest grossing animated film of all time, made it like over $1 billion and all this other stuff due to worldwide gross. And so I finally had a chance to see it and really just left kind of going, meh, I think some of the similar stuff that you had said felt the same for me. Olaf was really not great for me. I liked the thing that I liked the most about it was the characters. They felt real, and they felt like you could in a way relate to the struggles they were going through and where they were coming from.
Except for Kristoff, that guy, like, I don't know about that dude.
Yeah, I don't know about him.
He's just talking to reindeer.
Sven. I don't know. But the thing about it for the most part was it felt like Disney was stepping back into a right direction. And a lot of it was, I think John Lasseter had switched roles at that point and kind of come over from Pixar and was heavily involved in the making of this one and stuff. And it just felt like maybe they were sort of returning for him. And it had been so long since we had heard anything out of Disney animated films other than Pixar.
Mhm.
You know, most of the time Disney animated films had been just not really existing at that
Yeah.
point. So time goes by, didn't really think much of it, and then all of a sudden, hey, Frozen 2, which makes sense because it's the highest grossing animated film of all time. And
From a business standpoint, it'd be dumb not to make a sequel.
absolutely.
Yeah.
They'd made a few like little side stories, like, the Christmas time stories and short films and stuff. So went to this one not really knowing what to expect because this is my first time really seeing it in theaters and thinking, I didn't really know what they were going to do because I don't think it had the same involvement of like the Pixar group as the first one and everything. So my overall impression of the film was a positive experience. Yeah. I think that I left the film going, okay, more of like a state of just like whateverness than I was expecting. Yeah. I was expecting more humor. I was expecting more of an intense emotional hit. And I think a big part of that with this film was the third act. It really it felt like the main climax of the film was the beginning of what should have been the actual climax to the film to me. And maybe that's just because the last one had such a big...
And I think you're dabbling into what climax. My negatives are.
Yeah. Positives, I will say, this film felt more mature. I mean, it even kind of talks about that at the very beginning. It talks about how, all the characters have grown up and they're dealing with, different issues now as more adult in nature. And you get a little inkling of, hey, the events of the first film and, their history as characters in this world has had an impact on them and impacting them where they're going. That kind of quickly goes away, though, and it more just kind of makes room for the overall adventure of what they're doing. I found this film to be interesting in that they were trying to take it into a bigger world, into a much bigger kind of story than the first one. The first one had it was a straightforward story about these characters that were being impacted by events outside of their control.
Yeah.
This one was much more of like the characters interacting with each other, dealing with stuff in a world that had, been impacted by things beyond their control and all around them. So I think the role of the characters in this film was larger as far as moving the action forward, but it didn't feel, I think there was just not a weightiness in the same sense to this film. Maybe because I've already seen these characters. I know they're not going to kill them, That's
the biggest thing with it. They spent a lot of time. If we're talking some negatives here, then I think the biggest thing for me is they spent a lot of time. Well, two main things. First one, they spent a lot of time making making you feel like, or trying to make you feel like that we're never going to see a character again. Where in the back of your mind, they're like, they're not killing a character off.
No, they're not.
That's not going to happen.
No, yeah.
Although I was in a packed theater with three of my four kids, and they all love the movie.
Yeah.
But there was people crying, and my 4-year-old was crying, or not 4-year-old, my 6-year-old was crying, and during some of those moments, and he wouldn't admit it, but anyway, he but they were like, I'm sitting here, and I literally lean over, I go, hey bud, that person, this character is they're gonna come back. Don't worry about it. I'm like, don't even worry about it. They'll come back later.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it happened. It's
So the merchandising alone would mandate that they can't get rid of certain characters.
They're not.
Yeah.
I
which
think
is sad to
and
say,
it works.
But,
those types of things work for people who aren't maybe regular moviegoers. That don't know that. Don't know the in and outs of business and franchise, and you can't just kill off characters.
Yeah, and to their credit, if it was Pixar, I would say maybe, because Pixar is good at ending things when they say they're going to end
Disney
them,
is notorious. Disney animation is notorious for characters. They're not afraid to kill off characters, but they usually do it off screen, or a story about it, or something like that, or like in the first Frozen, her parents died in a boat wreck.
Yep.
And they kind of allude to it and talk about it, but they don't actually show it happening.
Yeah.
So that it's just one of those things. The other thing that bothered me about this is there's a couple of story beats, namely at the beginning of this movie, that they blow through so fast.
Yeah.
And I was like, hold on, what is happening? Why is this happening so quickly? Why are they doing this thing to get out of this situation really quickly.
Yeah.
And it takes in something that like should like maybe take a few minutes to kind of show, and they're doing it in a matter of 30 seconds just to move on to whatever the next thing is in the story. I was like, that is weird. I'm also kind of unclear about the nuances about how they explain
it doesn't
something that happens in like the main crux of what's happening in the story. I'm unclear about
they don't, and that's
what's happening.
Yeah, that was when I left. Like I said, the third act aspect when I left really left me feeling kind of with a bad taste in my mouth. And again, it's a kids film, so they're probably just gonna give license to like, well, kids aren't really gonna think about this too much. It's just gonna be what it is. But I kind of expect more, you know, in a certain sense, when you really go into who the characters are revealed to be and why they are there in that role, it doesn't really play out. It doesn't really make sense as to how and why. And it feels a bit like, you know, if you're familiar with comic book lingo, it feels like a retcon. It feels like they wanted to present a new side to the story. And so what they did is they went back to the prior established aspects of this character being this thing. And they just decided, well, it's actually this. Yeah. And that means that actually. And so we're going to move forward with it being this way now.
I don't know. I didn't understand an element of it. It's almost like, well, it's kind of like this, so hopefully you accept it for it being kind of like this, as opposed to actually telling me what is happening right now in this specific scene. Yeah. Who's this person interacting with, and why is this important right now? Like, I'm like, I don't know what's happening, but I tried talking to my kids about it, and they were like, I think maybe it was this, but they aren't sure either.
Well, and there's a part with Elsa, I won't spoil this, but it takes place, you know, the second half of the film, the sort of the beginning of the climax, where she's kind of experiencing some stuff. And I feel like I could kind of tell that they had been setting you up and they had been kind of playing this on the basis of like the first film. But then things just start happening and you're kind of like, well, why? Why is that happening?
Right. Why is that happening?
Where is this from? And who is that? And why? And how? Because it doesn't make sense why she'd have to go there in order to get, and I know this sounds very vague, but it doesn't make sense.
Right. There's several things in this movie that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. And so you're just kind of left with like okay, I mean, I guess I'll just like suspend my disbelief and allow this to be the path that they take with the film. And I didn't get that with the first film now. Everything made sense. Everything felt cohesive and like it was there for a reason. And I think that's what left me lacking. I'd say the other thing is the music in this film was good. It definitely didn't feel like they phoned it in. But nothing really left. I never left the theater humming any songs.
No, it wasn't even in. So there's the main song called "Into the Unknown," which is like out, like you can hear it places now. I only looked it up because I heard in the credits you hear the song, and Panic at the Disco does it. Yeah. And my kids are into the High Hope song by them and all that stuff. So, anyways, I got that, and that's the only one I know. Other than that, the other ones I kind of get. There's an Olaf song that's kind of all right, but then it's not as memorable. No, not as memorable.
Yeah. So overall, I think we've discussed this backwards and front without spoiling it. So, I left feeling okay about it.
Sure.
There was probably the thing about the last film is there was really high highs and really low lows, and this one felt kind of more medium overall. Everything just felt more of just like meh.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a safe gamble for Disney. Maybe they didn't really think of it that much, but maybe they were just like, well, we're not going to do anything crazy. Yeah. We're just going to kind of try and spit out something that's, you know, a next adventure for these guys. It definitely moved the characters forward, but it, in a certain sense, also just kind of felt like, hey, it's just another day in the lives of these characters. Yeah. So, yeah. Cool. And the last thing I'll say, and this was kind of it wasn't like a bad thing or a good or bad thing necessarily, but in this film, it felt Kristoff's role, although it was funny at times, really had no reason to be there a lot of times. It felt more of like they just kind of had him there because they needed him because he was a well-known character, but it really felt like it could have just been like almost Anna and Elsa going on their own journey.
It was more about them.
With Olaf. Yep. Yeah. So it wasn't a bad thing or a good thing, but it was just added fluff.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. All right, Matt, any other thoughts? You want to give your rating?
So this is a tough one. If I gave the first movie a C to C plus, I'm going to give this one a B minus. I liked it more, so I'm going to give it an 80.
Yeah, that's actually right where I'm at.
Really?
So, yeah, right at 80.
Nice.
That's very good. Yeah. Look at that.
Well done.
Cool.
Good job.
Well, we'll go ahead and wrap things up on the podcast here.
Sounds good.
There's a couple films out that I know we both want to see. Probably won't have time, but that Mr. Rogers one looks pretty interesting.
I want to see that. I think I'm going to go see Knives Out this week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Again, some reminders, some ways to get connected to the podcast, reelreviewmedia.com. We also have Instagram and Twitter, which are both at Real Review Media. Facebook is facebook.com/reelreviewmedia. And last but not least, we'd love to hear your thoughts and perspectives. Reelreviewmedia@gmail.com. Go ahead, send us a line. Let us know your thoughts and perspectives if you had a chance to see this film. And it's doing really well. I mean, financially, it's over $300 million opening. It's huge, good Rotten Tomato critic scores.
We're going to get a trilogy, guys. So if you're worried about
sure.
a sequel, there's going to be a sequel.
Yeah, and I could already see the inklings of it,
Yeah.
of the setup of the idea of, kind of like, I think it's going to be a mixture of like some other power that was unknown, maybe a kingdom or something comes in to like rule and take over.
Yeah.
Or some power that's, comes from a different
And then they have
force.
to join forces, and it's just like a magic war.
Yeah, and Elsa will probably find her equal.
Yeah,
You know what I
something
mean?
like that, yeah.
She's going to find her equal out there.
Because there's got to be
It's gonna
other enchanted forests out there or something. I don't know.
Something
Whatever.
like that. Who knows? But anyway, so anything else, Matt?
No, that's it.
All right. Well, it's been real.
It's been real.